technology to allow every developer to realize their full vision.
Where are the games at?
Where are the games?
Where are the games?
It's dry. Where are the games?
I kind of keep waiting for them to do their thing.
I don't see anything.
These are easily the most pointless upgrades I've ever experienced.
What is the point of buying a console if you can just make a PC?
If you're gonna have everything on PC, why not just buy a PC and abandon the console?
Where are the games? Where are the deadlines? Where are the projects? Where are the teases? Like, it feels weird that it's like,
Why buy consoles?
Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set.
What up, guys? It's your boy Like One Half and Duo, and I'm back at it again with this Generation N. Now, I want to talk about this video, and like I said, there might be two videos out of this, so check this out. But I want to talk about something that is, don't get me wrong, I like some aspects of it I like about it, but the thing about it, to me, it ages really bad. And I have arguments about this with people because, again, I'm an art style guy. Everybody wants realism. You really want realism. They don't age well. Most of those games don't age well, as we've seen. By having an art direction, those games could still, like, again, Super Mario, Super Metroid could still be played today and looks fantastic because of things. Look at some of the games they try to do in Grand Theft Auto and all that stuff now. It just feels antiquated, and Nintendo have some games as well that too. But I'm talking about realism now. Everybody's like, oh, we gotta see the graphic. We gotta see how I could cut all the hairs on a person's eyebrows and head and everything. And I remember back when they had it in PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4, Xbox One, was like, oh my god, the grass is so realistic. I'm like, we're arguing about grass. Are you kidding me? Really? Simple things like this, not needed, but people wanted. So let's dive into this situation, shall we?
So I've seen this tweet going around from user PainkillerQ8 asking the question, which one of these 4 games looks the best? Then I saw a reply from Night Sky saying, respectfully, this is why AAA gaming is imploding on itself.
Exactly.
And you know what? He's right. Also, to answer the question, Horizon Forbidden West.
But I got a question on this as well too, right? By doing all these realistic graphics and doing all this stuff, the problem is, which is PlayStation and Xbox's problem, and we saw that we saw the state of play now, and also the Xbox thing. Again, it's taking years to develop these games, and then I putting money into smaller budget games that could smaller budget or AA or whatever y'all want to call the crap. That's why they got no games. That's why PlayStation only have 11 exclusives. That's crazy. You should have at least about 25 in what, 3-4 years you came out. It's almost going to be 4 years that you've been out, and you only have 11 exclusive. That's crazy.
These past few weeks I've come out with videos talking about Nintendo and their place in the gaming industry today, and why they're generally
Joy Ferris. Okay, I'm sorry. This is one of the reasons why Game Explain is nothing. I agree with you, and here's the thing. I agree with people. If people are talking common sense or simple sense, it's trip. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna be thing. I didn't notice down at the bottom the whole him nonsense, bro. Stop. What the hell is that nonsense? And that's why GameSpot had problems anyway. But anyway, I digress.
Really doing better than PlayStation and Xbox currently. The Switch is the best-selling console this generation and the 3rd best-selling console of all time, despite being not nearly as powerful as the PS5 and Series X. And this also tied back to a 20-year-old interview with the former president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, in which he talked about.
And I'm gonna do a video about this. I found the thing again. I want to talk about this as well too. So I'm gonna do a video on this by itself.
How game development just gets harder when you're dealing with more powerful machines, which really aged well, because as we can see now with the PS5 and Series X, there's a lot wrong here. Things aren't great. Starting with the PlayStation 5, it's honestly doing well sales-wise, but still half of the PS4 user base has not upgraded to the PlayStation 5, and that can largely be attributed to the lack of exclusives. Most of the major PlayStation franchises like Horizon and God of War also released on the PlayStation 4, so there was even less of a reason to upgrade to PlayStation 5 unless you really care about better graphics. And even then, the rate that these exclusives are coming out is not nearly as fast as it used to be in previous generations. Sony even confirmed that there won't be a major PlayStation franchise released in this fiscal year, which just goes to show that they need to put more respect on Astrobot's name.
I agree with that too. Which is I thought I was like, wait, Astrobot's coming out this year. Oh wow, y'all just jerks.
And Xbox is also facing very similar issues, but also worse ones when they just shut down a few of their studios that they bought only a few years back. I'm still salty about Tango Gameworks because they had just come out with the highly successful Hi-Fi Rush, and that's also the antithesis of the games that we're going to be talking about today. The games that just chase realism to the point where they take so long to make and they are ungodly expensive. Just thinking about this also makes me look back at previous generations and how, quite frankly, we were spoiled. For example, let's look at Naughty Dog's output on the PlayStation 3. We got Uncharted, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, even The Last of Us. 4 games on one console. And then there's Xbox 360 with Gears of War 1, 2, 3, and Judgment. 4 games in one series on one console. Meanwhile, on PlayStation 4, their output, barring any remasters, was Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2. And with Xbox, it was Gears 4 and Gears 5. Even still, I'd consider that game output a miracle on this console generation. Now I feel like we're lucky if we even get 1 game per franchise per generation. Game development has just taken so long these days, and that has to do with a number of factors, but I think a major reason for this problem is the chasing of graphical fidelity. If you don't believe me, just listen to Xbox Studios chief Matt.
The Ninja Thirsty Drink System is like
Last year that both game players and the industry in general need to realize that most big games now have development cycles that take 4 to 6 years. He specifically cited higher expectations for being one of those reasons, as well as the level of fidelity that they're able to deliver. And to that, I just have to play this clip from the illustrious Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And that's a great point. Just because you can deliver the most realistic graphics possible or whatever, doesn't mean you actually should. I feel like at this point, there.
Well, here's the thing that killed me. If you're going to do that, Xbox and PlayStation, be like Nintendo. I'm just saying, be like Nintendo. Have 1 game that defies the generation. You did it with Last of Us. I give you that, PlayStation. But have 1 game that does that, and have other games do different things. Hi-Fi Rush or do anything else, whatever. Because Nintendo on the Switch, they released 2 games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that took long development, but they released it on the same console. And again, Mario Odyssey on that as well too. Yeah.
There has to be compromises made. I used to think that more powerful consoles helped make game development easier, not the other way around. Even God of War director Cory Barlog said that with more powerful machines comes more work for them. And that just makes me wonder, why do we even create new consoles if the work of game developers just gets harder and harder? And now we're apparently in the latter half of these consoles' life cycles. I feel like they just started. Xbox already said they're working hard on their next console, and I'm just like, stop. Just stop. I don't know why they keep giving these developers more and more power to work with when it's clearly making their jobs harder. Also, we can see 20 more pieces of stubble on some man's face. It all comes down to diminishing returns. We're getting to a point where graphical leaps just aren't impressive anymore. It was very impressive back in the days of 2D to 3D, and the first 3 generations of 3D gaming consoles had impressive leaps between as well. But once we started getting to the PS4 and Xbox One era, that's where things started to be less astonishing. Despite all the work put into these new generation games, they honestly barely look better than the last generation. There are some exceptions, like with Hellblade 2, which is just a gorgeous game that I couldn't see running on a previous gen console, but it came out 7 years after the first game. So if it takes that long to make games as beautiful but simplistic as this, then I don't want them anymore. Take them back. And you might want to tell me that long game development times is just a reality we have to face and we should be grateful that we even have games anyway. Let me tell you why long game development times are a problem. When you spend close to 10 years on one game, that's 10 years your company is not making a whole lot of money. Instead, you're spending it all on just one project. I think a lot about Rocksteady and how long it took them to make Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and that's not working out so well for them. And when games take upwards of a decade to make and cost over hundreds of millions of dollars to create, do you really think publishers want to take creative risks from that? No, they're going to play things safe. You're going to see a lot of the same types of games for years to come because of the state of AAA game development. Studios don't want to spend millions of dollars in at least 5 years on something that's not a guaranteed hit. Which, thank God for the indie scene, there's a lot of great indie games that you should support. I just played Animal Well, it's fantastic. But back to my original point, AAA gaming is in dire straits because of their focus on graphical fidelity. Now, that isn't to say these aren't great games on their own. A lot of them play really well. I liked God of War Ragnarok a lot because it just played so well. But if games like this played the exact same way and didn't look as good, I don't think many people would notice in this day and age. Like, I don't think they can look bad per se, but you can make a game look good enough and most people really won't care. This is where art direction comes in, and that is 100% stronger than mere graphical fidelity. I don't care if I can't see all the strands of hair. I don't care if I see all the pores in someone's face. I don't care if you hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Except I do. Please hit those buttons. If the game has great art direction, that's really all that matters. And you know what? I used to be on team graphical fidelity. I hated it when people criticized realistic games because I think that is still a valid art style, and I still somewhat agree to that. I think it's
Here's the thing, I'm not against it. I understand why we need graphic, and that's why I'm saying. But understand, studios and publishers, if your game ain't as great as you just pointed out with Suicide Squad, it's gonna hurt you. Now, please, like I said, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, I have no problem you taking a game to take a long time to develop. Make sure it's good. Make sure it's polished. Get all the bugs out of whatever. That's what you should do. Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. Have one game that does that. But the other time, then you have another game that maybe take less time than that. And then you have so let me put it this way. So even though Breath of the Wild, I just said with Zelda having 2 games that way. Here's the thing, and I'm happy Nintendo, good for you for not using this. People are like, oh, there's a $70 DLC, blah blah blah. Hey, I spent all this money on this world, and I'm going to throw it away? No, I'm happy Nintendo does. And they've done that in the past with a lot of their games. They make games, they have made an engine and use it multiple times. So I have respect for them when doing that, and that's a good way to do it because again, we have, of course, we did get Zelda for the DS. We had Zelda Phantom Hourglass and the Spirit Tracks. You have it. You made a new game of it, but you have the assets. I gotta flip it, change it, do all the stuff. That's good. So my point is this: have one game that takes a while to show off the new console, show what the console could do. How that against is Last of Us on Xbox. What would that be? I don't even know. But The Last of Us or Zelda, be that. Then have another game that have 2 games. It takes half the time to develop, like a Mario. We saw Mario Wonders. We have a lot of games on the Mario front. We have Mario Wonders, which is a new game. But then we have Mario Deluxe, Wii U, new Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, and then we have Mario Wonders. And then have games that you could do, like I said, see what Nintendo did. We have a remake of Link's Awakening. We have a remake of Zelda's, what do you call it, Skyward Sword as well, to be played on the console. So we have those, and the same thing they did with Wind Waker and call it Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, as Breath of the Wild is on the Wii U. That's the way I play the game, but that's the way I'm gonna love playing the game. But there you go with that situation. Like, have that, and then have the indies to do something like a Box Boy, and then a bunch of Kirby games. Yeah, you have Kirby's Forgotten Lands, but you still have Kirby's Dream Land. You have Kirby, the food game, and you have different Kirby's on the Switch. That's what they should be doing. That's the best thing to do.
It's okay to get realistic games every once in a while. I just don't think every studio needs to chase the realism of a game like Red Dead Redemption 2. And like I've said in previous videos, Nintendo has figured this out. Their games don't always look that realistic, but they still look great thanks to strong art direction. And they come out with a lot more exclusive games than the competition, that's for sure, because they don't spend nearly as much time on the graphical fidelity as they do the overall gameplay.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about in that regard. That's why I just explained. And then you have more games to play and have fun with.
Then there was Tears of the Kingdom that took like 6 years to make because the systems in that game, whew, talk about complex.
Yes.
But the non-Nintendo company that was so close to getting this philosophy? Xbox with Hi-Fi Rush. For years, Xbox has been criticized for their lack of quality exclusives.
Hi-Fi Rush and Sunset Overdrive.
A lot of their games were getting decent reviews, but there was nothing that really shattered the earth. And then one day they just shadow dropped this rhythm-based combat game that wound up winning the hearts of gamers and critics alike, getting nominated for and winning multiple awards, and it looks like this. Not an ounce of realism in this game. Not an ounce. It is purely a 3D cartoon. Xbox was pleased with this game's performance, and how do they reward the developers at Tango Gameworks? By shutting them down. Absolute insanity, and I just cannot wrap my head around why they would shut down Tango Gameworks after creating one of their biggest hits in almost a decade. But I guess they gotta make back the money of that Activision Blizzard acquisition somehow. But Hi-Fi Rush is a perfect example of what I think game studios need to understand. They're focused on the wrong thing here. Not to say they completely disregard gameplay, because like I said, some of these realistic games are quite fun still, but the thing is, a game with strong art direction and strong gameplay will always stand out more than something with uber realistic graphics. It goes back to Hellblade 2. That game, visual stunner. Loved looking at it the whole time I played. But man, those gameplay elements made it kind of forgettable. Now, I'm sure graphical fidelity is not the only reason why these games take so long and are so expensive to make. Sometimes the management of these game development teams are poor, so as a result they just take longer to make. But then there's also those gigantic open worlds filled with way too much stuff to do, to the point where someone like me is not going to finish it because they have far too many other responsibilities to take care of. I feel like once developers and publishers realize that they don't have to chase these insane graphics in order to make good games, then we'll start to see shorter development times, lower development budgets, and overall world peace. I'll tell you what, man, that's part of the reason why I picked up Astro Bot Day 1. It's because that game doesn't really focus too much on graphics, but the overall gameplay experience. If we got more games like that in the AAA gaming space, then I will be a very happy camper.
And he's right. I will pick up Astro Bot's Day 1 too. Why? Because I'm playing I'm playing it on the PlayStation. It's fun, and I know they can't f up that situation because of what it is. That's another thing. Nintendo has more games of like, okay, we know they're gonna make sure the game run or whatever, except for Pokemon. Again, Scarlet and Violet was trash. I'm not gonna deny that because of the development, but I'm telling you that's what it. But again, because I'm like, oh, I know this is gonna happen. That's why I picked up Other M, and I'm like, oh my god, and I don't care. Again, Other M is a really good game. People don't want it, but I don't give a dang. Really good game. I want to do a video about that too. I already did a video about that. And then Federation Force was a good game too. But, oh wow, nobody wants to, it's weird. They don't want to spin-offs and everything. I mean, I enjoyed like I said, I've played, even though I played on the Wii U, Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity with Zelda, which is a good, there you go. They took the same art style and give it to the people who make Hyrule Warriors and make a great game. They didn't do it once, but they did it twice. Fire Emblem. There's two major Fire Emblem games on the Switch, but Three Hopes is the bigger one, which is have the bigger story and everything. Then they gave you a Hyrule Warriors Light with three houses, then your Three Hopes, and then you got Engage. That's how you do it, man. Seriously. Speaking of that, I'm gonna have to. I think I'm just gonna combine. I'm just gonna combine both videos because it just I don't want to like. Yeah, I don't care for the views, but I'm here mostly to prove my point. So I'm gonna combine another video that I had that's talking about this because that's the way I've said stuff just is a way that the gaming industry needs to understand. It really is. So let's get into.
Oh, hey!
Oh,
you might.
Nope. For some reason, why did they do that? I don't know.
Our internet bill went up?
Okay, so let's go into good old games, basically those guys, and listen to their situation. And again, hear from their point of view. But Game Explained, that guy did a good job of saying what I wanted to say, and adding my 2 cents onto it because that's what we need. That was needed.
Hello everyone, so good to see you. The PlayStation State of Play for the month of May was just the other day, and if you saw our reaction, we were largely unimpressed. Many news outlets, in fact, were unimpressed. It was wrought with the same affliction that we see in a lot of presentations like Sony's, Microsoft's, among others. That being, boy, the look of a lot of these games just kind of blend right into each other, don't they? This has become less of an exaggeration as time goes on. Realistic style shooters, team-based shooters, the high fantasy aesthetic. I can't be the only one that sees a lot of these presentations sort of just smearing together at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's not to discount the games that have a long ongoing legacy behind them. Silent Hill 2, Dynasty Warriors Origins, Monster Hunter Wilds especially, looks amazing in its own right. That's the thing, these games, they have their audiences, but when you blend them into a presentation that starts out with Concord, a game which I had no idea what kind of genre I was looking at, because for the first 5 minutes, it's trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. While it was entertaining, well produced and voice acted, this is a game presentation. This is a state of play, not a state of cinema. You see, a lot of these games, they look great, I get it. Concord, God of War Ragnarok on PC, which could have been an email, Ballad of Antara, Where Winds Meet, yeah. Visually stunning, but as the years go on, I find myself finding it harder to care about how many pores I can see in a character's skin texture. Developers are free to pursue any artistic direction that they want. It's their vision and choice to make something look hyper-realistic or artistically dynamic. But I think I've run into the point where I just don't really care how good a game looks. I value if a game runs and runs consistently well. I value if a...
Funny how that is right now. Now people saying all this stuff like, yeah, how about when we get all the graphics stuff and everything? Okay, how about the game just run on no bugs? We don't need... Again, Nintendo is no way, and I'm saying this, Nintendo is nowhere part out of this situation because there's some games they have I'll put in and they have to have an update because of crap. So yes, I don't like it either. I bought me a physical game, I'll plug it in and then, oh, you got an update. Now I do like that I could play the game without updating it if I really wanted to play the game, but I feel for PlayStation and Xbox fans because I did it. I'll play the game. I don't like put still update in my PlayStation 5. I know it's gonna be the day one update. Can we stop with the day one updates, really?
The game can load quickly, which given this generation of SSDs on the PS5, for example, is probably the biggest contribution in technology to gaming in recent memory. Loading massive games up in mere seconds? That's always super exciting. I'm in the opposite corner of this map, okay? This gargantuan open world map, and I'm just gonna warp from one nation to the next, alright? I have pressed the button, count how long it takes, and we're here! Anyone who has played Genshin Impact on the PS4 in comparison, oh god, when that was the only platform that I would play this on, this could take upwards of 20 seconds or so. But if you're the only PS4 in a party of those on a PS5, on their mobile phone, or PC users, the load time could take so long that the challenge would already be halfway over by the time your friend drops in. Funny at first, annoying as time went on. I'm still in shock of not just this, but other older titles that I can play on the PS5, and how they can load in the blink of an eye. That is when I'm like, the technology is incredible. Amazing realistic graphics though, incredible lighting and shadows, being able to count every strand of hair on a person's head, that's just a bonus. I don't need that. It's cool that it's there, but the game is going to probably still play the same, isn't it? Ray tracing, at the end of the day, who actually cares if I can see my natural reflection on a puddle on the ground or against a mirror? If it isn't meant to be a core integral part of the gameplay, then I'd rather you focus on making the game more enjoyable than flexing your tech. I'll pull the average Joe out of a crowd here in San Francisco, and I'll ask him, hey dude, are you seeing this? This game has ray tracing. See that reflection on the wall? And Joe's gonna tell me, who are you and why do you tell me this? But then shortly after he says, oh cool, that looks nice, yeah.
And like I said, look at Nintendo's doing it with the art style. That's the difference in that one. They're doing it with the art style. You see it. They have the same reflection on the cabinet and on the wall. Wow. Who cannot see how great, we're doing? That's what they're doing. That's a good thing. I swear, some people. They're doing it without ray tracing.
Except this is on a Nintendo Switch. We don't got ray tracing. And yet, given the almost laughably limited power of the Switch in comparison, they can still make this neat little reflection on various surfaces.
Exactly.
Hi, we're Visible. We're the wireless company.
That's how people can do it. There are developers out there who figure this out.
Ironic to bring up after mentioning Paper Mario, but every time that a game gives me the option between performance or graphics modes, I always do performance.
Yeah.
That smooth 60 FPS pleases my eyes over a graphical difference that honestly is hardly ever noticeable most of the time anyway. And this isn't to call out anyone who prefers graphics modes. You're free to do as you like. But realism just doesn't really strike me much anymore. With the PS5 and Xbox Series, now more than ever, we're seeing the upper plateau of fidelity that consoles can give us. Games don't look that dramatically different from last generation to this one, and at the end of the day, my PS5 and Series S can play mostly the same games and have the same looks. It just depends which plastic box you want to play them on most of the time. This, again, isn't to discredit devs that want to make realistic looking games and the audiences that wish to play them. I've had a lot of fun with the Horizon series, Spider-Man, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, what have you. All amazing games in their own right, and they benefit from their art styles. But man, these are also taking a lot longer to make just to meet those graphical expectations in today's era, aren't they? We're looking at AAA titles taking upwards of 5 years, part of the reason to make sure that every texture and model looks like that they can step right out of the TV. And this might be my own problem, but not only do I lose track of which game is which because they tend to all blend together during a presentation like in the Game Awards for example, the other problem is that these titles will take so long to develop from announcement to release that I'll go, did we hear about this game already? And half of the time, yeah, we have. Again, my own problem. Then again, a game like Infinity Nikki will immediately stand out in a crowd just like in the last State of Play. People perked up and started talking about it, not just because of the concept of an open world dress-up adventure game sounds too silly to be true, but also because it looks so graphically different from anything else within those 30 minutes.
Exactly.
I wonder how many other people are experiencing this realism fatigue. This is why our precious indie darlings are so important in this day and age. Indies can look like whatever the heck they want to, but see, they take so much more of a risk because they have the space to do so. A game like Animal Well isn't under any pressure to make investors happy by selling millions and millions of copies to satisfy a greater audience. No! This little blob just wants you to explore this immersive world in all of its CRT-inspired glory. Animal Well thrives in its simplicity and its ideology that a game doesn't have to explain anything for players to eventually form their own narrative. It starts as your explorative Metroidvania, but this well goes as deep as the player is willing to put into it. And despite it being much shorter length than many AAA titles, I found that my time met the value of the experience. Also, you just gotta respect sprite art in any capacity. The game looks beautiful and unlike anything I have ever seen. Then look at a 3D game with a ridiculously strong visual identity, like Hi-Fi Rush, for example. It can be a big award-winning hit, it can give players the feeling of playing a Saturday morning cartoon, and garner wide appeal. But then the higher-ups will gut the company and dissolve them. And why? Because making a sequel means that it wouldn't come out for another couple of years at least, and it would cost money? Oh god, heaven forbid that we use money to pay devs so a game can make money. That's a long-term goal. What about my pockets today? Sorry, now we're getting on a tangent. I'm saying that it sucks that smaller studios are also getting grilled for successful games despite not making titles that are your cookie-cutter Hollywood-style playable movie. The big overarching message of this entire video is, I love a good art style. Modern games in hyperrealism is like looking at a pointillism painting. From far away, yeah, everything looks good and I can tell things apart. But then you zoom in real close and you're like, what the hell is this? It's just a bunch of dots? Looks dumb. Then you get games that are like a Pete Mondrian painting, the one with the primary color squares and the lines. You're like, wait, that looks way different than what the other guys are making, but the colors look nice. Like, this is cool and I appreciate what this does, of course. But what if we use more flat colors and, despite what tools everybody else is using for their art, we just make something quirky that stands out? When you go into a museum, you don't want to see the same artists all copying each other, right? Exactly. You pay for admission because you're expecting to see a wide variety of concepts and ideas.
Diversity.
Some tradition.
And that's another thing that killed me. That's their problem. It's so funny how they want to put in all this woke and gay and propaganda and all this other crap. They want diversity, but they don't want a diversity of games, which is what we need. That's what we need at this point right now. Different art styles, different everything, and also it shouldn't take friggin' every game should not take 5 years to be done.
While others are weird and just out there. As a kid, you only get drawn to the ones that you like, but when you get older, you appreciate the variety, at least marginally better as your tastes develop, right?
Yep.
Nintendo has been acing this for years now. One of the very first, and still one of the strongest examples of them establishing an art style that completely contrasts anything else out there in the market was Yoshi's Island. This crayon drawing aesthetic is still a masterful work of art that stands the test of time. And it's done on a 16-bit console. Nothing else on the SNES looks like this. And that's on top of just being a really good game. The Legend of Zelda goes absolutely bonkers with this idea. Do you know any other series which will dramatically change the art style as much as Zelda does? If every Zelda with 3D models looked like Ocarina of Time, but just a little better with every generation, I think I'd go a little crazy. They'll all play perfectly fine, but now I'm conditioned to expect different art styles, and it's fascinating to see them all work cohesively in the grander scheme of things. Wind Waker was getting pies and tomatoes thrown at it when it was first revealed for being too different and cartoony, but now it's one of the most beloved games in the series. My second favorite Zelda ever still. And even now, there are artistic choices made in the original GameCube version that I just like more than the HD version. We've seen this happen with Mario, and very recently too. The new Super Mario Bros. Series really started to lose its own identity with games like New Super Mario Bros. 2 or New Super Mario Bros. Wii U. It also gave Nintendo fans a newfound fear of the word new. But lo and behold, when Super Mario Bros. Wonder was shown off and then released, people were like, yes, this is the charisma and energy of Mario that we've been lacking for years. There's so many additional animations and interactions that give everyone so much character, and it makes it so charming. The games played okay enough, but we truly realized how grossly fatigued we were of the new Super Mario Bros. Aesthetic when Wonder released. People thrive and get excited by variety. You could argue that the big 3D Mario games still haven't achieved this leap in identity. From Sunshine to Odyssey, and by extension Bowser's Fury, they have gotten more impressive and expressive, but they haven't really made the jump, pun not intended, as drastic as Zelda has accomplished. No, Mario pretty much reserved these choices for the side games. Super Mario RPG gave us Squat Boy, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga gave us a sprite adventure that still looks unique to any other Mario game, and Paper Mario made him into a lovable beady-eyed wafer. People can go on about how the frame rate of 30 has killed their experience and or joy of Paper Mario. Whatever, they probably didn't play the original or just don't have a soul anyways. If nothing else, these people make me wish that we had even less frames.
You know what's funny about that? That happened to the Metroid fandom and Zelda and everybody. Is a lot of people who just jump. There's a lot of people who just jump on the train because they see money, because of streamers, and because they want to do this for just to be a part of the cool kids. They don't really accidentally go and say, "Hey, I like this game," and I could articulately say why I like this game. It's just like, "Oh, it's a popular game. Oh wow, Twilight Breath of the Wild. I like this game. Yeah, it's a better game. Why do you like it?" And they can't tell you about the physics and everything. Like I said, we can do that, but those guys can't.
That's right, baby. Let's turn this into a stop-motion experience. I know certain Paper Mario games have already leaned a bit into that, so maybe that's a little too traumatic for some people to envision. Frame rate aside, just forget it, who cares? I love how this remake was handled. Like, the way everything was paper crafted, the way you can see everything formed with construction paper and curled up cardboard that you'd buy at Michael's or Joann's Fabrics. Maybe this is because I see these materials all over my house.
That's why I have no problem with Yoshi's Woolly World or Crafted World. Very good game, and they used the art style. I love that.
That's because I have 3 little sisters, but it all just looks so appealing. The sheen on the floor of Boggly Woods, for example. I know I've passed by those glossy floral patterns at an arts and crafts store before, and it's just accomplished so well here all around. This is what they were going for all those years ago. The attention that went into literally crafting a believable art style that you could replicate in real life. Along with the fact that the GameCube needed to flex the number of models it could handle on screen with every chapter, these contributed to the frame rate staying at 30 on the Switch. And long story short, you get used to it. This game is so wonderful and charming and, you know, good to play that your eyes will just adjust in time. Yeah. And it's also just really silly that this is even a topical point when you consider that the vast majority of people who are going to play this game won't even know what frame rates are.
Or again, you're playing an art style game, a turn-based game, whatever. Trust me. Ooh, like I say, if you're playing a fighting game, racing games, a shooter game, I get that. Come on with the frame rate talk. That's almost just like the graphical talk. It's not really needed. It's not really needed.
Even less that are aware that the original ran at 60. I do not care. Game is playable, game is good, I will play it. The age-old philosophy of making a game fun before anything else has become especially poignant in a console generation that can only push the boundaries of graphical fidelity so far now. Yep. The leap from N64 to GameCube or PS2 to PS3, it can't exactly happen twice. We can only go from vague blocky polygons to more believably human shapes and figures once, you know? Instead of going forward and pushing the art style further and further into realism, Nintendo has taken side avenues around the main path to see what other roads can be taken. And now, people are begging for more to do the same.
Sick of eating crap that doesn't fill you up?
Funny enough, that's what you're right, that's what they're asking. People are asking for it because there's no games out there.
In the recent state of play, it is likely about Astrobot. That game looks amazing. It looks so charming. There's an energy behind it. The other bots, the animations, the enemies. I don't know how to describe it, but I just felt good after watching the trailer. It gives me some hope that companies who see interest in this will realize, oh yes, people are more than happy to be playing smaller titles without painstaking years and several millions of dollars going into the budget. Exactly. And I'm saying this like I'm talking about Astro's Playroom, but no, Astrobot is going to be like a proper full-length platformer, and I am ridiculously excited for it. That's the core gist of what I wanted to get off my chest. The creation of smaller titles that don't take 5+ years to make is more than welcome. Stop worrying about every strand of hair or every minute detail in the graphics. At this point, a lot of people just want to look at something unique. The HD 2D look is entering a realm of being potentially overdone. But once a game like Dragon Quest III emerges, oh, I bet people are going to be all over that. Because I know I will, part of the reason being that it's Dragon Quest. Anime-inspired titles with their cell shading has become one of my favorite art styles. When animated well, it becomes one of the best-looking visuals in this medium to my eyes, because the
and also, again, you could take up the Persona 4 and it's gonna look just as good as it was when you first bought it. I could play this 10 years later. That's why a lot of Nintendo games, again, like I said, Super Metroid, Super Mario World, those games are that old, but they still look good almost 30 years later. 20 years later. Crazy.
Style is just so impressive, and I'm a weeb. Going beyond that, the artistic direction of certain Atlas games like Persona 3 Reload past games like Tokyo Mirage Sessions or upcoming titles like Metaphor ReFantagio. The UI itself is a highlight of the game.
Yep.
If you told me that looking at menus was going to be something to actually help inspire my artistic style as a graphic designer when I started in high school, I'd have laughed in your face. But it's been proven to me that even now, something that should be as mundane as a user interface as a menu itself can take on its own art form and visual identity all its own.
Oh, yep.
And honestly, nothing is perfect either. Genshin Impact will either give you one of the most beautiful vistas that you've ever seen in the last 5 years, or a complete incoherent concerto of visual effects and damage numbers.
Yep.
The Tales series is either doing its best visual art style that I've ever seen with a game that came out 15 years ago, or trying just a little too hard to please and appeal more of what is perceived to be the Western audience's preference. Fire Emblem Three Houses, you gotta admit, can look pretty ugly and jagged. Look at the background of any conversation. Those are just stretched out textures, and sometimes I can't believe how terrible the receding perspective looks. But it's still more popular than Fire Emblem Engage, which is the most beautiful Fire Emblem game that's ever come out, because it was more than graphics that brought people to Three Houses. Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia didn't set the world ablaze or anything, but man, people love to talk about the presentation of this game. The voice acting, the characters, the art done by Hidari. This is why I'm hoping that the eventual remake of Genealogy of the Holy War leans more into the direction of Echoes, with more of an emphasis on portrait art than models. I think it fits the theme and mood of Genealogy way better, and I personally just really want to see everyone done in Suzuki Rika's art style. If she's not the one doing the character art for this game, Nintendo done goofed up big time. But yeah, that's just a big ol' shout at my personal peeves with some aspects of the market today. Does anyone even agree with the points that I made? I don't know. But what I do know is that you listened all the way to the end, so thank you so much for watching. And since you did, I'm gonna go a little bit on a Daniel ramble, as one might call it. So, I know I haven't been putting out a lot of videos.
I think I don't know about this, but again, going to what he said. So this is one of the things that's killing the game industry right now. And that's why I think, again, it's not only affecting just how much games, it's not affecting what the games look like, how they look, how they're going to be preserved for years before. It's affecting the development time. And again, it's good that it's visual, but if it looks good, but it doesn't drive. Like I said, I've talked about this multiple times. It's all good at the car. I got a Lamborghini, but if the gas, if I can't put gas in it, what the hell is the what is it? I need the good stuff, man. It looks good, but it plays bad or boring game. I don't want that. I want me a fun experience game or fun game. Number one, gameplay. Number one. Then we could do the stuff. And again, I'm not knocking people out there. If you want to have a realistic art style, developers go at it, do it, whatever. But as the three major companies, and mostly two, I should say, not three, this is hurting your bottom line. And then we get in more bland games, more bland situations. And just remember in the Wii U, everybody talk about drought, Wii U drought, drought this, drought that, whatever. Look at the drought the Xbox and PlayStation had. Anybody making, only now people start making videos about that, but before they wasn't doing that. So there you go. Anyway, I think this is a good spot to start. I did the two videos together, which is good. So again, that's my talk. That's my thing about it. About this situation. Yeah, it's not needed. It really doesn't need these super high graphical, nail biting looking things. But you know what? It is what it is. But again, I'm liking that Nintendo is doing what they normally do. All right. And with that said, I'm gonna end this video on that one. Remember, there's no perfect games out there. None. Because what's perfect to you is the perfect to me. What's perfect to me is the perfect to you. Simply enjoy your games on all consoles. All right, including PC. Just enjoy them and have fun with them. All right. Thanks you guys for giving me the time, and check out the next video.